When I started with 3D printing, there was a lot of people telling me that you know that you're not going to end up with just one 3D printer. And I didn't believe them. Until now. Since we got a laser engraver in the H2D, we also need to have an exhaust, which basically means that we need to drill a hole through the wall. That looks pretty good. I had to put the hole a little bit lower because I didn't want to have to saw into the SCODIS that we got right here. But I gotta make cover for this because this just looks bad. This is printed in a material that is called TPU, which is incredibly flexible, and the layer adhesiveness on TPU is wicked. But it's also gonna be a great frame to put in the pipe. One of the main reasons as to why I printed it in TPU is because I wanted it to sort of form a little bit of a seal. But now I don't have to worry about any sort of exhausts coming out here because it's so freaking tight. Take a look at that fit. Now we're too high. I guess I need to design a new part for the exhaust. This is the part that I came up with, and if I put the original on top, you're gonna be able to see that we lowered the part where we attached the actual pipe. Another cool part here is that on the original part, you can see that there's some sort of seal that goes around here. But since we can print in TPU material, it also means that I can create my own seal for this custom-made part, which I think is freaking insane. We're just gonna make sure that all of this goes on to the actual part that we have printed so that we have a nice tight seal. Wish me luck. Oh, that is such a perfect fit. Wow. The wonders of 3D printing. The biggest reason as to why I wanted to have an exhaust for this printer in particular is because all of the smoke that comes when you're using the laser engraver, but also whenever I'm printing, for example, ABS or ASA, there is a lot of fumes that comes out of the printer that doesn't smell as good. And I think that in the long term, then it might not be that good for you. But if you're just printing in PLA and PETG, you should be fine without having the actual exhaust. But if you can, it is always good to get rid of the fumes. So don't print ABS or ASA in your living room. So for those of you that have been around here on the channel, you already know that I do have a couple of 3D printers at this point. So why do I need a new one then? Well, there's a couple of reasons as to why. But one of the biggest ones, as I said in the beginning of this video, is that we have a laser engraver. And this is the unit right here that you kind of hot swap onto the actual tool head of the 3D printer, and then you are able to laser engrave stuff. I think I just said goodbye to the resale value of this iPad. I was a little bit off center there with a couple of millimeters, but hey, you know, it's mine at least. And you know what this means, right? Customize everything. So let's put the laser engraving to the side for a little bit. What else do we got? Well, 2 different nozzles. And with 2 different nozzles, you can speed up the entire process of printing in different colors or 2 different materials. Say, for example, that you want to print in TPU, which is the flexible material that I showed you previously in the video, which also stands for thermoplastic polyurethane. On my previous printer, what you needed to do was that you needed to remove the actual tube and then feed the TPU material back into the nozzle, and then vice versa when you want to print with AMS again. But since we have 2 different nozzles on the H2D, I can feed the TPU material into one of the nozzles and then the AMS into the other nozzle, which means that I can switch in between all the different materials without actually going and doing anything with the printer. It just speeds up the entire workflow whenever you want to do prototyping and prints and whatever it is that you can think of that requires different materials. And the actual build plate volume of this printer is a lot bigger than my other printers. It basically allows me to print bigger, faster, and more stuff whenever I want to print stuff, which I think is awesome. I'm gonna keep evaluating the printer and see how it performs and what I like about it and what I don't like about it before I do an actual dedicated review of it. But so far, the things that I've tried, it is a beast.